Today we're digging into, well, a really fascinating and, let's be honest, controversial figure, Elon Musk.
Yeah, definitely polarizing.
Exactly. We're using Walter Isaacson's big biography, plus a lot of analysis on how he actually, operates his companies. But our mission here isn't really to debate the man himself. It's about finding something useful for you, like a practical blueprint.
Right, the actionable stuff.
We want to pull out the key strategies, the mindsets, maybe even the algorithms, you could say, that let him build Tesla, SpaceX, these huge companies.
Things you can actually apply.
Yeah, whether you're running a startup or just, I don't know, managing a tricky project at work. Okay, let's unpack this.
And I think it's crucial we give the full picture. We absolutely need to look at the superpowers, the big vision, the crazy risk-taking.
Absolutely.
But just as importantly, we need to bring in the context, the critiques, what some sources call the health warnings. Because if you're learning from this, you need the whole story, the methods and the potential costs to decide if it's, well, worth it.
Makes sense. Where do we start?
Well, you have to start with the foundation, his core way of thinking, first principles thinking.
Ah, yes. Heard a lot about that.
It's basically tackling a problem like you know nothing, like a total beginner. You throw out all the assumptions, ignore how things are usually done, and you dig down to figure out what's fundamentally true, almost like a physicist would. It's about the raw building blocks.
Which is so different from how most of us work day to day. We tend to copy, right?
Exactly. That's reasoning by analogy.
He actually has a quote on that, doesn't he? Something like, we get through life by reasoning by analogy, copying what others do with slight variations.
That's the one.
But when you want to do something new, you have to apply the first principles approach. Analogy gives you small steps. First principles gives you leaps.
That's the promise, yeah. But the sources are quick to point out this isn't easy. Analogy is quick, efficient. First principles. That takes serious effort. It can be really difficult, even inefficient, if you overdo it.
You can't question everything all the time.
Exactly. You have to be smart about what you choose to break down to its core truth. Otherwise, you'd never get anything done.
Okay, so you use first principles to set the big, maybe crazy goal, but then how do you actually build the thing, the rocket or the car, without getting bogged down in rules and procedures? I heard there's a specific, 5-step process.
That's right. A kind of operational algorithm they use at Tesla and SpaceX. He apparently calls it incredibly powerful for basically making fewer stupid mistakes.
Okay.
And it works because it's strict. You have to follow the steps in order. Step 1 is maybe the most challenging. Make requirements less dumb. Or, put another way, challenge everything relentlessly.
Less dumb. Okay, tell me more.
The key rule is organizational. Every single requirement for a part or a process has to have the name of the person who asked for it attached.
A person, not a department.
Never a department, not legal says or safety requires. It's Jane Doe requires this. It forces accountability.
Huh. That feels really countercultural. Usually you defer to the department or the senior expert.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's where the danger lies. The analysis points out that requirements coming from really smart, experienced people, those are the most dangerous.
Well, why?
Because everyone just assumes they're right. No one questions them. So the rule is, question everything. Even if Musk himself asked for it, you need to prove it's needed based on first principles right now. If not, it might get cut.
So question everything, tie it to a person, then what? Step 2?
Step 2 flows directly from that. Delete any part or process step. It's all about subtraction.
Get rid of stuff.
Aggressively. The advice is to delete more than you feel comfortable with.
Really?
Yeah, Musk apparently has this benchmark. If you don't end up having to add back at least 10% of the things you deleted, you probably didn't delete enough.
Wow. That forces radical simplification.
Precisely. Which leads perfectly into step 3. And this is where a lot of people mess up the order. Simplify and optimize. And it must be in that order.
Simplify, then optimize. Why is that sequence so critical?
Because the most common mistake, the biggest waste of time and energy, is when teams work really hard to simplify and optimize something that shouldn't even exist in the first place. Something that should have been deleted back in step 2.
Ah, I see. So you optimize something that's fundamentally unnecessary.
Exactly. So simplify first, reduce the inherent complexity, Maybe in AI terms, it's like choosing a smaller, specialized model before you spend ages tweaking a giant general-purpose one for a specific task.
Okay. Make it fundamentally simpler first.
Then, and only then, do you optimize. Make that simple thing work better, faster.
Right. If you optimize something complex, you just get a faster, complex thing.
A fast, complex mess that's probably brittle and hard to change later. Simplify first, then optimize the simple thing. That's robust.
Okay, that makes sense. Simplify, then optimize. What's step 4? Speed.
Step 4 is accelerate cycle time. Basically speed things up, increase the learning velocity. But, and this is crucial.
It has to wait.
Absolutely. You only do this after steps 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, you're just accelerating the creation of bad parts or the execution of dumb processes.
You make mistakes faster.
Precisely. And Musk himself admitted making this error big time at the Tesla factory. They spent a fortune speeding up production lines for things that later they realized were based on dumb requirements and should have been deleted entirely.
Ouch. Expensive lesson.
Very. So speed comes after you've questioned, deleted, and simplified.
Got it. And the final step. Step 5, which sounds like where many companies actually start.
Exactly. Step 5 is automate.
Comes last.
Dead last. Because if you automate too early, you basically lock in all the problems, the dumb requirements, the unnecessary complexity, the processes you haven't simplified yet.
You pour concrete around the inefficiencies.
Perfectly put. His early factory experiences, trying to automate everything from the get-go, taught him that the hard way. They built this incredibly complex machine, building the machine, before they'd even properly debugged and simplified the car itself.
Okay, that 5-step algorithm question, delete, simplify, accelerate, then automate. That's incredibly clear and logical. But wow, enforcing that kind of radical deletion and questioning, that must take a certain kind of intensity.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings us to the mindset, the superpowers that actually drive this whole system. It's not just the steps, it's the force behind them.
Like what?
Well, first, there's just this almost unbelievable level of vision and ambition. It's never just about making a slightly better product.
No, it's changed the entire industry.
Right. Revolutionize cars with Tesla. Make humanity multiplanetary with SpaceX. The goals are audacious, almost absurdly so.
And backing that up, there's the risk tolerance. I mean, putting basically all his money on the line multiple times.
Yeah, billions of his own cash. When both Tesla and SpaceX were, frankly, about to die in the early days. That level of personal skin in the game, it changes everything.
Definitely sends a message.
Then there's the continuous learning. This is fascinating. He doesn't have formal degrees in rocket science or car manufacturing.
Right.
But he dives in, learns the physics, the engineering, the chemistry, deeply enough that he can actually challenge his own expert engineers on the fundamentals.
So he can ask those tough first principles questions himself.
Exactly. He's not just taking their word for it. He understands enough to push back effectively. And alongside that, there's persistence. Failure isn't just tolerated, it's expected as part of the process. Learn, iterate, try again.
Okay, so big vision, huge risk tolerance, deep learning, persistence. What about like practical things, day-to-day stuff that helps drive this? Any productivity hacks we can learn?
Yeah, there are a few interesting techniques highlighted. One is reverse engineering and quantifying goals.
How does that work?
So instead of saying, I need to finish this report this week, which is vague, you break it down. Let's say it's reading a 300-page book in 5 days. Okay, that's 60 pages a day. If you have, say, 6 hours for it, that's 10 pages per hour.
Makes it concrete, actionable now.
Exactly. It turns a big, daunting goal into a series of small, manageable, hourly tasks. Much less intimidating and easier to track.
I like that. What else?
Time boxing. This is pretty common, but with a twist. You allocate fixed time slots, like 30 minutes for this task, 10 minutes for that quick email check. Creates urgency.
Right.
But the key difference, noted, is focusing on the duration you'll spend, not locking into a rigid start time. So you prioritize, okay, the next 45 minutes are for this important thing. It's more flexible than a minute-by-minute schedule that breaks the moment you get interrupted.
Focus on the block of time, not the clock time.
Okay. And to protect that focused time, there's a strong preference for asynchronous communication.
Meaning?
Preferring email or specific internal systems over instant messages, Slack pings, phone calls, things that demand an immediate response.
Right, things that break your concentration.
Yeah. Async lets you control when you engage with incoming information, preserving those deep work blocks needed for, well, first principles thinking and problem solving.
Makes sense. Protect the focus. Any surprising management rules?
2 really interesting ones stood out.
Yeah.
First, All technical managers must stay hands-on.
Meaning they actually do the work.
Yep. Software managers have to spend like 20% of their time coding. Managers in solar need to be able to physically install panels on a roof.
Wow. Why?
The idea is to stop managers from becoming disconnected PowerPoint jockeys. They need to understand the ground truths, the physical reality of what their teams are building or doing, keeps them anchored.
Prevents ivory tower management.
Okay.
And the second one?
This one's designed to cut through bureaucracy. For solving tough problems, he apparently insists on skip-level meetings.
Talking to the people below your direct report.
Exactly. You bypass the middle layer.
Ooh, that sounds like it would make middle managers uncomfortable.
I imagine so. But it's intentional. It's about getting unfiltered information. Direct reports might, consciously or unconsciously, sugarcoat problems or filter information to make themselves look good. Going skip level gets you closer to the raw data, the real issues on the ground, so you can apply those problem-solving algorithms effectively.
Okay, we've got the thinking framework, the 5-step process, the intense mindset, the hacks. But this isn't the whole story, is it? We need to talk about the darker side, the costs.
Absolutely. To really understand this, you have to look at the health warnings, as the sources put it. The biography doesn't shy away from the downsides of this extreme drive. Well, there's discussion of toxic behavior, pointing to unresolved personal issues leading to behavior that reportedly spilled over many around him. Things like public berating, sudden firings, pretty intense emotional volatility.
Yikes.
Then there's the obsessive work ethic, pushed to an extreme. We're talking no holidays, literally sleeping on the factory floor during production hell, setting a pace that's, frankly, unsustainable for most people.
Yeah, leads to burnout.
And that ties into creating a culture of unreasonable demands. The analysis suggests this fosters an environment often characterized by fear, a real lack of psychological safety. People are afraid to bring bad news, afraid to fail.
So wait, that 5-step process, challenging requirements, deleting things, does that system only work because it's driven by this intense, maybe even fear-based pressure?
That's a really critical question the material forces you to ask. How much does the effectiveness of the process depend on the pressure used to enforce it? It definitely complicates the picture.
And it's worth noting the biography itself wasn't universally praised, right? It got some criticism.
That's true. Some critics felt it leaned towards being a hagiography, a bit too celebratory. The main critique was that Isaacson might have relied too heavily on Musk himself as the main source, potentially an unreliable narrator.
And there were examples of that after it was published.
Yeah, the most cited one was the situation with Starlink in Ukraine. Isaacson had to issue clarifications after backlash because his initial account seemed to heavily favor Musk's version of events. Critics argued he hadn't sufficiently sought out or included perspectives from, say, Ukrainian or U.S. officials involved.
So relying too much on the main subject's perspective?
Potentially, yes. Another example critics pointed to was about context. The book mentions Musk tweeting, "Take the red pill," which is a famous line from The Matrix.
Right.
But it didn't include the context that the phrase has become associated with certain online, often anti-feminist or right-wing groups. Nor did it mention that one of the movie's actual creators publicly responded to Musk's tweet with something like, "FK both of you."
So leaving out that surrounding context changes the meaning, or at least the interpretation.
Exactly. Critics felt omissions like that tended to present a more sanitized or perhaps heroic version rather than the full, sometimes messy reality of his public interactions and their implications.
Okay, so bringing it all together, we've laid out this really powerful blueprint for innovation. First principles thinking, that rigorous 5-step algorithm.
A clear system for breaking barriers.
But, based on this case study at least, executing that blueprint seems deeply tangled up with a leadership style marked by, well, extreme pressure, personal turmoil, and significant human cost.
You can't really separate the method from the man, or at least the environment he creates, in this specific instance.
So what does this all mean for someone listening wanting to learn? The big takeaway seems to be that, yes, radical innovation probably does need a structured, intense framework. You need to question assumptions, delete ruthlessly.
The system makes sense.
But applying it might come at a steep price, both for the person driving it and the team executing it. Is that fair?
I think that's a very fair summary of what the sources suggest. There's immense power in the process, but also significant warnings about its implementation in this context.
Which leads us to the final thought, the provocative question for you, the listener, to chew on.
We spent a lot of time talking about the process, that 5-step algorithm for improvement.
Yeah.
But here's the thing to consider. Is that process only truly effective at achieving breakthrough results because of the almost inhuman, maybe even toxic intensity of the person enforcing it day in and day out? Could you, as a learner, take those 5 steps, question, delete, simplify, accelerate, automate, and achieve the same kind of radical innovation using a completely different, more balanced, more humane leadership style?
Or is that intense, relentless pressure cooker environment actually the unspoken, maybe unavoidable 6th step required for the specific kind of world-changing breakthrough?
That's the uncomfortable question. Where does the power truly lie?
Yeah.
In the elegant algorithm or in the forceful, perhaps flawed human driving it? Something to think about as you consider applying these lessons yourself.